welcome to a Talk of Opportunity. Today we have Andrew and myself, Jose. We're going to get started and talk about Session Zero.
Well, the importance of Session Zero.
The importance of Session Zero.
Just play the damn music.
Session Zero, Andrew, for you. Why is it important, and why should people not skip it?
Okay, so Session Zero, why it's important to me. The reason why it's important to me is because let's take our most recent couple sessions that we've been playing. We actually just finished our second session of Curse of Strahd. Okay. I think the Session Zero was important for that for two functioning reasons. And the first one was because you want to establish a background of like expectations for your players. And in this case, it was more of a, for lack of a better term, and to kind of avoid spoilers, it was more of a like, jeez, it's like right on the tip of my tongue.
Improv?
No, it's not really an improv. It's more like what to expect from the adventure.
Expectations.
Yeah,
setting expectations.
Yeah, general expectations of the adventure. Whereas when we were like, for instance, when you were doing your Session Zero for Dragon Heist, you emphasized that, hey, this is going to be a lot of role playing. You know, a lot of using the investigation checks and a lot of perception checks and stuff like that. Whereas I wanted to let the players know that this is going to be a more, I don't want to say basic, but a more like traditional story or a more traditional campaign, to where it's the players don't have to worry about making a character that's solely for role playing. They can essentially sort of fill in the gaps, more or less. So, like, if one character wanted to play combat, he can. If one player wanted to be a role-playing heavy character, he can. But also, not only that, but it also kind of prepares your players. It kind of makes it a little bit more fair to them. Because, for instance, if I didn't say anything about what Curse of Strahd was, you know, what if somebody wasn't comfortable with the idea of, you know, going into what is essentially like a horror movie? Like, what if they weren't, you know, what if they were expecting to play a normal, like, sword and sorcery campaign, and instead we got like in the first session where it was essentially a bunch of scary music and a lot of like atmosphere and, you know, a lot of heaviness. So you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think, man, Session Zero, it's really a time for the DM to set expectations, and I keep saying that because there's no other way to describe it. You know, like with Dragon Heist, I try my hardest to like make it very clear that it was going to be full on role play, very little combat, and in fact, since you guys were inside the city, it was going to be actually better for you guys to not get in fights and in trouble with the guards. Right. And in my opinion, I think that let you guys to create characters that kind of like manage to, and in fact you guys did, you manage a way to talk yourself out of encounters, which I really thought it was very clever, because for a party that likes to kill all the things, it was a time for you guys to flex your creative muscles on how to get out of things.
Right.
Even though you failed and kept dying because of explosions.
Well, I mean, that wasn't the meat and potatoes of Dragon Heist.
Right.
Now, it would be one thing if you had told us, hey, this is going to be a game where you talk to a lot of people, you're going to be dealing with a lot of like charisma-based rolls, and then someone rolls a character with like a 9 charisma score. That'd be one thing. But if you just say, hey, we're preparing a campaign, I don't know, make a character. And then you tell them it's a role play heavy game. Okay, well, what if they just made a fighter? with no charisma, no intelligence, no nothing.
True.
You know, I mean, granted, for certain people that is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
I know me personally, I would like to flavor my character based on the campaign.
Yeah. It's also very important for the party to come together and just talk about like which role each one is gonna take on.
Right.
For the most part, I think this group specifically likes to find a balance. We always have the heavy hitters, the tank, and the healer. That's kind of like the basic. But for Waterdeep, we had two bards, and I thought that was a lot of fun. They played off of each other, which was great. It was perfect for Waterdeep.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that you kind of told us that this is going to be a non-traditional adventure.
Yeah.
So we weren't really too terribly worried about having a cleric or a healer or something like that. And at the end of the day, it really didn't end up anything like that. It could have been, we could have played any class just as long as, well, I mean, in any adventure you can play as any class. That's kind of the beauty of 5e. But it really relied a lot more on like the role playing and social aspects.
Right.
So really, I mean, you can say either this is a detriment to the adventure or not, but the classes kind of came second in that adventure, you know. Whereas again, setting expectations, I wanted to let the players know that party balance was pretty. It wasn't like super important, but it was just like, if you don't have a balanced party for Curse of Strahd, it's gonna be not a hard time, but it's gonna be a rougher time.
Which, you did tell us that it was the classic party was very welcome in the setting. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I think to an extent everybody knows that, but I feel a much more important thing about Session Zero, and this specifically applies to new groups, especially when you go to like a gaming store and you're trying to find like a new DM or a new group, is you get to actually meet the players before you actually start the game, and without saying it out loud, you set yourself expectations like, hey, like this one player, I can't joke around like I do with like my other friends and stuff like that. I think more importantly is for new groups that have players that may not know each other. I think is a good social interaction to get to know each other and know what kind of jokes, what kind of talk you can bring to the table, and be mindful of that. Well, hopefully a well-adjusted adult will be able to set themselves standards based on the people that they're around.
Right, and that's something that's like, say, I mean, outside of our table, let's just say this is the first time that a group has ever gotten together. It's a group of random people at like a game store or something like that. It's Adventure League, okay. Like a session zero, even like a brief like 15-minute session zero before they even start playing, like that same night, would be would get rid of a lot of like potential grief that might come in the future, because it's kind of taken, it's more or less in that setting, it's more or less like a verbal like consent form, like that infamous RPG consent form thing that's been kind of going around.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. You brought it up,
and it's one of those things. It's like if I was doing something like that, which I won't, because I, that kind of anxiety, I'm not putting myself through that. But if I ever had to do something like that, I mean, I would make it pretty clear cut that, hey, I'm not going to allow like this, I'm not going to allow that, like no sort of like weird like you my fears. Like, I'm always afraid of that one guy that tries to turn this to like a weird sex thing, and I'm like, nope, I'm cutting that out right now.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the session zero, like in terms of like establishing a rapport between on both sides of the screen, like it's more or less like an interview.
I can see that. Yeah, definitely.
Where like, okay, the players are expecting this and the DMs are expecting this. And if you don't like it, now's the time to leave before you make, some form of commitment. Because what if you don't do that? And then you find out that your DM is like a sadist and, just pretty much is using this as like a power game. Like, well, that's, you can get up and leave the table right there, and you probably should. That's an hour and a half of your time or something that, this all could have been avoided.
Yeah. And it's not guaranteed, of course, that in the session zero, you're actually going to know all these things right away. They will develop as it goes, but it's always good to keep in mind when you go in to a new group. So Andrew, as a DM, what do you recommend newer DMs or just anybody in general to bring to session zero?
When you're establishing a session zero, the one thing, well, it kind of really breaks down into sort of more or less 3, maybe 4 topics. And it's like, okay, what kind of genre are we playing? And for like Curse of Strahd, I said it's a survival horror, which it is. And it's, okay, how is it in terms of combat versus role playing? It's a pretty even amount of combat versus role playing. And this is kind of like the optional thing, but it's like, well, how difficult is the combat? In terms of Curse of Strahd, it can vary from moderate to severe. Like, I don't really think, like, as written, there's any easy encounters. Almost all of like the story-based encounters are pretty brutal. And that is definitely like something that I wanted to share with the group. And also another important kind of thing is like, what sort of style is the campaign? And by that, I mean, if you were playing like Out of the Abyss, you could say, well, it's narratively driven, i.e. railroady. Whereas this one, like, the narrative kind of forms around the players. It's a sandbox. Right. And that was something I was very open about. I said, in so many words, hey, after like the second session, and it turned out exactly like that. After like the second session or so, the whole game is going to open up to you, and you can figure out where to go from there. So I thought it was kind of important to establish that, especially because in this certain campaign, like, things don't wait for the players. Well, and they don't, and that was something that I said it's a living, breathing, organic environment, and right. whereas some adventures, like, they'll wait for the players.
Yeah,
and this one.
Not to interrupt you, but it's funny you say that, because I think that's the first time I hear that, because even Tomb of Annihilation and Storm King's Thunder, even though the world was going to end, they made it very clear that, like, hey, let your players explore. There's not really, while there's a time limit, there's not really like a big rush. So that's very interesting that you mentioned that. Curse of Strahd mentions or specifically details the fact that things happens without the players.
Yeah, and it's not like there's like hard time limits and punishments and stuff like that, but there is a couple of times in the adventures, and I'm obviously not going to say it for spoiler reasons, but there's a couple of times in the adventures where it says, like, okay, once the adventurers do this, there is X amount of time until this happens. And I just thought that was really interesting, and that was something I wanted to let the players know, that, like, hey, you can, like, mess around and explore and stuff like that, but do be aware that, you are, like, the world is not written around you in this sense. It is a very, fish out of water scenario, and it's and I just think that's a very, and I'm not entirely sure if I've heard of another adventure that does that. So that was definitely something that I wanted to let them know. that's why I felt it was important enough to include in the Session Zero.
That's very interesting for me. Just because I've gone through like 3 books, and that's why I let you guys just take your time, really.
Yeah, and then like I said, I'm not going to be like, okay, time's running out, you got to do this. No.
Right.
So, but I think it would really rob it of a lot of the life that was given to it if I didn't do that.
Definitely. Which, by the way, I just want to mention again, and I'm not, it's just you've been doing such a great job with Cursed Strahd. You have raised the standard for DMing for me, which dude, I'm telling you, like you've been doing really good, and I just want everybody to know because Andrew is the bomb.
Yeah, I actually don't like. It's weird. I don't like. It's not.
It's okay. None of us do. And if you do, you're a narcissist.
I can't take a compliment.
Yep. Nope. I'm the same way. So I'm happy to be on the other side to actually give you compliments. But to continue, I just want to I just want to bring some things up since I was on the other side of the screen this time around. As a player, to bring up to Session Zero, I think it's very important to really think about your character and maybe come out with 2-3 ideas, have a crazy one,
right,
a middle one, and a safe one, and bring it up to your DM and make it very clear. Hey, I want to play this. Is it okay? Is it are you allowing what kind of stuff? What kind of players, characters?
Well, that's another thing about Session Zero is that it kind of allows the players to say, okay, I've been really wanting to play a bard, or I've been really wanting to play a barbarian or something like that. And so that way the other player's like, okay, this guy's going to play this, so I'll probably play that to kind of, if you're anything like me, which I'm not saying everyone should be like me, but you we've had this discussion, I'm really personally as a player, I'm real big on balance. So if everyone's going to be this, I want to be that to kind of help, balance the group out. And so I think that's another important thing about Session Zero is that it allows this discussion to happen between the players about which characters, who's going to play what, and what roles are going to fill. But also another thing about that is that it kind of it does open the door to shall we say outside the box possibilities. For instance, if I was running a traditional a traditional adventure, I would say just go what's in the book. But because, for example, your Blood Hunter, it fits the story almost to a T. It is a class that is a monster hunter.
Yeah.
And it does this magic that involves it's this dark blood magic user kind of thing. So I'm and naturally my fear of homebrewing at first was just no, just stick to the book. But then I'm I'm probably never ever going to see this class in action again outside of this. So it would be really dumb for me to pass this up. Especially because, like I said, it fits the mood so well.
As soon as I know I joked that I'm saying that, I want to be Geralt of Rivia, of Rivia. But when I first read the class, I think it was around the time when you first wanted to run Curse of Strahd. And man, I was so close to pick it because even the artwork that Matt Mercer came up with, it just looked like it was pulled from, the guy is from Barovia. It doesn't even look like it's from the Forgotten Realms.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it fits so perfectly, and so far I'm having a blast with class.
Yeah, and that's and the thing about it is that because we told the rest of the players hey, this is going to be a horror campaign, it's going to take on darker elements. We've had a lot of people, we've had a lot of feedback on that, and so we've had, and it's kind of funny because we have the two opposite ends of the spectrum. We have Alex, who is playing a Grave Domain cleric, and then we have Heather, who is playing essentially an angel.
Yep.
And I just thought that was really funny, and then and then you have Wright Truby played by Howard, who is just a guy. and that is not a slight against him. I think that's perfect because because the whole idea is that you're supposed to be more or less like tricked into the setting.
Right. Also, I mean, in order for those characters, the Lizard Folk, Grave Domain, and the Aasimar, and the Kenku, to stand out and have opportune moments to be weird, you kind of have to have the human, normal dude who contrasts the event. Yeah.
And this is something that me and Howard briefly touched on, but that to me, that allows me to have more fun because when you have just a human fighter, that's essentially a blank slate.
Yep.
Like anything can happen to him.
That's true.
So I mean, believe me, it is not a takeaway from the campaign.
Don't turn off the lights though.
No.
Yeah. But no, I mean, all this stuff, I think it's very important for any DM, any player to look forward for a Session Zero. I don't think I've met anybody who's actually been annoyed or doesn't want to do a Session Zero. I don't think that actually exists. But if anybody's like even questioning a Session Zero, like even if it's like a 15, 20-minute session to just like talk about the setting, talk about what's allowed, what's not allowed, and everybody just briefly talk about their backstories and what they want to play. I think that it just makes the campaign so much better.
Well, I mean, a Session Zero is important if both sides of the screen are going to be invested into the game.
Yes.
Now the group that I played with growing up, like in middle school and high school, there were no Session Zeros. Like we just no Session Zeros whatsoever. But then again, the adventures were not serious. They were not, they didn't have like stakes and stuff like. Oh, I mean, they did, but it was essentially the stereotype that like we're not really playing D&D. We're just sitting around eating Cheetos, making dick jokes, and drinking Mountain Dew. Kind of. It was the very goofy sort of, I would dare say, like immature kind of playing.
Hey, you were a lot younger.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of expected.
But that's kind of the thing. That's like where, what's it? A couple of years back, I tried to play with them again. And I was just like, man, this is not what I want. Like I want a story. I want payoff. I want and that's kind of the thing. Like I not to go too much into like personal backstory or something like that, but like I've completely flipped on it now to where like I don't want to have like the character that's like I'm gonna take a dump in the mayor's office. Like, okay, like you can do that, but please don't.
Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I guess I'm lucky. Well, I don't know. I never had that experience because I started D&D as an adult. Full grown adult, not even like young adult, like full grown adult. So I guess all my players were always in the mindset of like, yeah, it's fun, but it's a lot more fun when you're smart about it. It's a more mature way to tackle the situations.
Well, it's just a lot more fun when you're invested in it.
Right.
When you go in having expectations, and sometimes those expectations are subverted or they're met or something like that. But at the end of the day, and it's one of those things where the story that happens, like even though I've read the campaign backwards and forwards, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. But I do know it's going to have a good story. And that's because the players are more or less just as invested as I am, if not more so in some case.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess it's also something that you as a DM or as a player will be able to tell is if a person on the table is invested or not.
Yeah,
and you can decide whether you want to play with that person or not.
Yeah, again, this is all stuff that can come up in Session Zero. This is, I mean, because this is.
I mean, what was it? The one I told you about that on a Facebook group, somebody mentioned that one of his players before they even started said that they didn't want to do. Oh, what was it? They didn't want to play D&D because it felt like homework because it was paper and pen.
Yeah.
And if they could move it to Roll20 or whatever it was, which fair, I mean, that's fine, but to move it to Roll20 is fine. But the fact that the player felt that just because they had paper and pencil, that it will feel like homework.
Right.
And that's already a red flag for me. I'm just like, wait a minute. I'm expecting at least the minimal level of investment here. Right. And if you can't do your homework, you can't follow along in the story. Like you get to see that firsthand.
Well, that's one of those things like that. That would be a player that's probably more for there's a Warhammer game where all it is, it's a board game. It's a Warhammer board game. It's like the original Warhammer, not 40K. And all it is, it's just a dungeon delve.
Oh, not Dragon Quest.
I think no. I think it is something like that. Oh. But it's essentially you just go in, kick the door down. I think it is just Warhammer Quest. Yeah, it's just Warhammer Quest. And it's literally just like you like pre-generate a dungeon, like as you're exploring it. You just kick down the door, kill the baddies, get the treasure, and get out.
Hero Quest. That's what I was thinking about.
Hero Quest. Yeah. Okay. And to some people, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
To some people, that's their fun, and I get that. But when you tell me we're going to play D&D, okay, I want to kick the door down and throw fireballs and hit stuff too, but I also want a good story. I want it doesn't have to be like a masterclass like Critical Role style story, but I do want there to be set up and payoff, and that's something that's also you need to establish in session 0, and I don't know, I'm not entirely sure if I said it to the group when we were talking about Curse of Strahd session 0, because I kind of felt on the spot and I remember stammering a lot and tripping over my words, but I wanted to make it very clear that I'm taking this seriously. Like this game is serious for me.
Man, if you didn't say it, you've shown it, and I think everybody gets it.
So, I mean, and by the way, thank you. Again, I can't take a compliment, so because I have this weird thing where I'm like, I'm never good enough.
Yep, I know. I know you do.
So, because you have the same thing. We all do. It's fine.
It's part of being an artist, I guess.
Anyways, but that's why I made it very clear, like, hey, I'm going to play these people how I envision them. And, like naturally they're not going to, punish or hinder the player in any way, shape, or form unless the players deserve it. But it's just like, I want to do this thing. I want to give this thing the gravitas that it deserves.
Yeah.
So, and that was something I made clear. Now, if it was like another adventure where it's like, hey, let's just have fun, that would be a different story. If it was like a really lighthearted campaign or something like that, which, I got a couple ideas cooking up in my head about that. For like lighthearted stuff where you can totally, do this kind of like weird jackass style stuff. That's totally fine. But if you were to do that in Curse of Strahd, that'd be like a sort of oil and water kind of situation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say it again, but I'm super excited to keep moving forward with Curse of Strahd. And if anybody's listening to this, we actually streamed the second session yesterday, actually.
Without my knowledge, thank you.
Just to give a little bit of a backstory to that is that I asked Andrew if it was okay for me to stream it, and his response was,
okay, this was my response. You said, is it okay to stream it? And I responded, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to say no. but you're going to do it anyways, and I'm probably going to forget about it. And that was a week before the second session, and I completely forgot about it.
The best part is that I told the rest of the players about it, and I told them the night before, and Howard almost gave it away. Heather straight up gave it away, but I played it off saying that my computer was messed up and I wasn't able to stream it. So we went through the whole thing, and towards the end, after that ended, I just like stopped talking and turned towards the stream and just say goodbye to everybody that was watching, and it freaked everybody out.
And I got like the weirdest like I'm on candid camera moment. Where I'm like, because you're like, oh yeah, have a good night, like Robert and stuff like that. I'm like, wait, what the fuck is he talking
to? Heather got super red. I felt guilty, but not really, because I told them, and they agree with me. They were down for it, except for you, Andrew.
Well, I mean, to be fair, when you guys, because I watched the stream back because I do have that much of an ego. Well, it was also sort of like okay, this is where I messed up on, and
right.
I was like, it was akin to a football coach watching his games tapes. Anyways, but the part where I think it was Heather asked like, "Hey, are we still streaming?" Like that entire time, I was like looking through my notes, so that completely went over my head.
Okay, all right. That's when I was just like, I texted her. I was just like, it was supposed to be a secret.
Heather, shut
the fuck up. Yeah. No, it was great. It was, in my opinion, I think it was more of like a proof of concept for you guys to see it. I watched it at work while I was going through it to get the highlights, and I was laughing even though I already knew what was going to happen.
It was one of those things. It's like I felt, even though I felt embarrassed afterwards, I felt like it needed to be done.
Yeah, no, dude. I can only tell you so many times how good you are at storytelling. You won't believe it until you freaking see it. And even like Robert liked it. My boss Jen was watching it while playing WoW and enjoying it. She was like, "Oh, this is really relaxing to watch while playing WoW." Like, I'm telling you, dude, you're fine. You make it so much worse than what it is. It's not bad at all.
I know. It's just one of those things. Like, I can't. Like, I was watching. What the fuck was that? I was
It's a hack.
There's a goose in your apartment. No, we're not getting there. But I was watching a bit of the stream, and I got up to the part where Heather had the conversation with the Traveler, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't stand the sound of my voice anymore.
Dude, I hate the sound of my voice so much. I cannot. I didn't hear myself DM until that one time that Alex streamed it on his account for like, it was like 20 minutes or something towards the end of Doom of Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it the next day. I played it back, and oh my god, I could feel my blood just like I couldn't believe it. I was like, how can you guys let me talk, and how can you guys let me DM for so long?
And like and the thing about that is that the whole Traveler, like, that wasn't even like an accent. That was just me speaking like more clearly and concise and a bit more posh. I'm like, I'm not even gonna try the Vistani part. Like, no.
Watch it, dude. It was good. But yeah, so whoever's listening to these, you can go to Twitch / A Talk of Opportunity. Watch some of the highlights. We got into a fight with some ghouls, and we got our card reading, and hopefully next session we'll stream it as well, so you can join us and say hi to us.
I would say personally the highlight. I mean, if I'm allowed to say that, because I know it's my campaign, I need to be humble, but whatever. Yeah. I would say probably the highlight of the second session was the part where Raiden sees himself being hanged.
Dude.
Just because of how like coincidental the timing was on the music.
Dude, I thought you timed it. I thought you practiced it and you were waiting for the music to queue up, and you started talking at the right time. I swear, it was so perfect. It was really creepy too, by the way, the whole description.
Nope. I just played the music, and because I had heard it before, I'm like, oh, this would be really good for something scary, and then I just played it, and all the puzzle pieces kind of fell into place, and it was something that like afterwards, like I had to smile at myself. I had to feel proud for myself because I'm like, that's never gonna happen again. So I'm giving myself that one.
It was good. The whole sessions we had since the last podcast, the last episode. I think we had 2 sessions, right? And the first session, oh man, the freaking empanadas. That was okay. So we make it. We arrived to Barovia. By the way, I've already played this bit. And I'm gonna I'm gonna go for it, Andrew, because I know they're not gonna eat it. So I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna.
Well, hold on. Just to provide a little bit of context, I had previously ran Curse of Strahd for Jose, a mutual friend of ours named Rico, and then once Rico kind of dropped out due to his schedule, some like random people that I met online, but it kind of dissolved. It didn't really pan out.
Yeah.
And that was what.
Okay, that was like a year ago, dude.
No, it was longer than that. I want to say it was like 2 years ago.
Actually, hold on, I have it right here.
It might have even been 3.
No, 2018.
Oh, it was? Okay, that felt a lot longer than that.
Yeah. 2018 was the last conversation with Rico. Yeah, sad.
Oh well, I mean, it is what it is. So I had told Jose that, hey, we might be, I'm gonna obviously try to change it as much as I can, so that way it's not entirely retreading new ground. But yeah, he can't. I made sure to stress it to you, like, hey, try not the meta game.
I've been playing dumb for most of these 2 sessions, especially with the freaking pastry lady.
Yeah.
And I was, oh man, I was trying to roleplay really hard the fact that my character wanted to eat it, waiting for somebody to like jump in and eat it, or even my character eat it as by itself. But
that was one of the things. Like after the first session, like afterwards, I'm like, they didn't fall for the pastries, did they?
They don't. No, they were so paranoid about being poisoned. It was great though. Like my character's like, I'm so freaking tired of rations. I just want to eat an empanada.
Oh man, I tried my damnedest to sell those fucking empanadas.
Dude, no, you did sell them. They were metagaming though, because they knew that something fishy was going to happen. Because if you pay attention, after the session, the next day, everybody was eating empanadas.
Yes.
So if they were actually role playing that moment, they would have bought some empanadas.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like it. That kind of walks that fine line. Like, is it metagaming or because I think because I think it was Howard playing Raiden. That's like Vesemir. Look at how we got here, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I was like, okay, fine. I guess I won't eat it.
Yeah.
And then of course Heather wanted to like take one of the empanadas to open it, investigate it, and do her whole Sherlock Holmes bit on it. But yeah, no, that bit was fun. My other favorite one, and it was such a fleeing moment for me, but I freaking loved it because it was so natural for my character to do. Is when we went to we were helping Ismark bury his dad, and we went to the church. We talked to the priest, and then outside in the back, Ismark started digging his grave, or not his grave, but his dad's grave. And you mentioned, you were like, oh, he grabbed the shovel and started digging his grave by himself. And Vesemir is just like, oh, I'll help too. And then Smoldrax, the lizard, jumped in, and who else was in there too? Oh, and Ryan jumped in there too. And then you're like, okay, great. Working together, you guys got it done in under 30 minutes. And Vesemir's just like, all right, good job, team, and start like high-fiving everybody. Yeah, great teamwork in front of Ismark and his dead dad.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, this is for my dad, so thanks for this.
Ismark does not know how to process death.
No, he doesn't know how to process a bunch of assholes high-fiving digging his dad's grave.
Hey, we got it done in 30 minutes. Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, never mind. I'm not getting into this argument.
But it came out so naturally for my character. And then, of course, I had to sleep next to the dead body because my character's obsessed with death.
You and Small-Drax had to sleep next to the dead body.
And while we were leaving to take the dead body to the church, Lilith, the warlock, she was like, "Make sure there's no missing toes or anything."
Yeah, make sure he's all there.
That was great.
And that was one of those moments where Ismark and me, like as the DM, were just like, "Oh my fucking god, what did I get myself into?"
I think so far, Ismark has asked himself so many times why he hired us.
It's just out of pure desperation at this point. Like,
what was the other one? I think it was in the second session. Oh man. Oh, freaking Small-Drax grabbed a bunch of he carried a bunch of bones from the graveyard back to the home in the middle of the streets in plain view of everybody else.
And then he asked Ismark, like, where can I keep these? And he said Ismark's like, outside.
I know you want to. I know that it's supposed to be like a very creepy and dark and moody setting, but goddamn it, our team it's so lighthearted.
Oh no! I was honestly like, I am not for anyone in our group that's listening. I'm not at all upset by that. I was actually kind of expecting that.
Yeah.
Because like I know you guys like to provide the levity, so that just means I need to go harder on the creepy shit. So
my other favorite one from session 2 was when after Lilith the warlock got her first vision, and she gets creeped out because she finds out. So Lilith gets her first vision as a drawing, which is like a wheel, and essentially it represents life. It's like a lamb that's alive at one point in the clock, and then as it goes move forward, it dies and whatever. But the part that Lilith reacted to was the three cloaked figures in the background, which represent the hags that kidnapped her when she was young.
Mm-hmm.
So Lilith, Heather describes when she realizes that she puts a journal down and makes a noise. It's like meh, like a meh noise, right? And now we have a Kenku. So Aaron, it's like she's like within like seconds of Heather saying that, Aaron's like, oh my, Talaxia, which is her Kenku, mimics Heather and goes man. So now you have two people going man on the webcam, and then
I just remember what happened.
I think Alex didn't say anything, but Alex is just like, because his character doesn't know how to laugh, so he just starts laughing out of nowhere. He's
It's just like, oh god, it's just a cacophony of madness. I can't tell you how many times Ismark has like just held his head at what's going on with the group.
I know I do a horrible job at describing this. If you want to see it, go to one of our highlights. It's Lilith's first vision. You can actually experience it for yourself. It's so silly. I love it. I love this group. mentioning the Kenku, which we didn't talk about last time. We have a new player.
Yes.
Yeah, her name is Erin. She's a coworker of mine, and she's playing a rogue Kenku thief. Very exciting to have her on the table. She was a little shy at first, of course, with all this madness going on, but she's warming up little by little. But her Kenku, her Kenku's great. I want to see her take the Kenku to a new level, and she's doing a great job so far, just mimicking all of the stupid shit that we say.
Her Kenku was no slouch in combat.
Oh, dude, no, not at all.
I mean, and like I have to give props for Erin coming up with the idea to use ball bearings. No, because that's actually something that's like, oh shit, that's actually smart.
Yeah, no. Dude, Heather's face when Erin said ball bearings, I've never seen somebody so happy.
Yeah.
No, she's doing great. I just playing the Kenku thief, master forger, so that's going to come in handy for sure. Also, the fact that she can replicate any noise. I mean, she can replicate Strutt's voice.
That she has heard.
Yeah. Oh man. So those session highlights. A lot of things happened. What else? Oh man, so much has happened.
I mean, I don't know, man. I kind of do, but I don't want to talk about it.
What?
Like, like the sessions that we've had, because well, I mean, should we?
No, I mean, let's stick to recent stuff, because otherwise we're gonna be on here for 2 hours.
Yeah. We're gonna be sitting here talking about the same crap over and over again.
Yeah. Oh man. Great news. We are officially on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah,
we're official now. So the only thing that sucks is that we don't really use there's no a handle for iTunes, like a talk opportunity, and the link to give you is a bunch of random numbers. So if you're listening to us and it's not on Spotify or iTunes, make sure to go there and follow us. It really helps. And you can get our episodes as soon as they come out. You don't have to wait for me to take my sweet time and upload them on YouTube.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we do have a YouTube page. It's getting a couple of views. So yay.
We need 30 subscribers so we could get a branded URL. So
really?
it'll be youtube.com/ a talk of opportunity.
Oh, very cool.
That's why it's hard to push, because it also has a bunch of random numbers.
Yeah. But I mean, it's all starting out. So
yeah. Well, one day we're gonna be rich.
Okay.
Oh man.
I will have to say though, the reception that we have been getting was a lot warmer than I was expecting.
Yes.
I was not expecting to have essentially everybody at your workplace listen to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh god, that's like way more people than I thought.
It's only like 2 more people.
I know, but that's 2 more people than I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard for us to actually like you said, it's so hard for us to receive praise. So the first thing we always say whenever somebody mentions our podcast is just we always go to this. We always resort to the same thing. Oh God.
Yeah.
How can you listen to my voice?
Yeah. Every time someone's like, "Oh yeah, I showed this and that the podcast," oh no. I'm so sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah, exactly. What else are we going to talk about today, Andrew?
Okay, so I thought it would be interesting, because we talked about starting a campaign. I thought it would also be interesting to talk about the unfortunate endings of another campaign. And this kind of bleeds into, no pun intended, this kind of bleeds into us going to Curse of Strahd. But Jose, at the end of Dragon Heist, you were suffering badly from DM burnout.
Yes, I was.
So I don't I have a knowledge of a certain kind of burnout, but could you describe to people that don't know what it is, what exactly DM burnout is to you?
Of course. Man, okay, so I think we touched on this briefly on our last episode, but man, at the end of Waterdeep, I was not, I wouldn't say to the extreme of like not wanting to touch any D&D books ever again, but I was getting close to that, and I do not want to ever be at that point. I want to be able to look at a book and be excited to read it.
Right.
And by the end of Waterdeep, I was not at that in that mindset.
If I can honestly describe how you look tapped out.
Dude, I was.
Yeah.
I was. I really was. And if this was the only thing I did, I don't think I'll be I will be as tired.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have day jobs. We all have side projects that we're doing. D&D. I don't want it to be.
We all have day jobs for now.
Yeah, right. I don't want my D&D experience to be work. I want it to be enjoyable.
Right.
And not taking a break between Tomb of Annihilation, which was already a pretty big campaign, and Waterdeep was a huge mistake on my part. And I just don't want to like repeat the same things from last episode, but it led to me. It led me to run a campaign that was unsatisfying for everybody, that I was confused, and it was hard for me to portray what you guys needed in order to enjoy the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things, man. It felt horrible to go. I didn't want the group to dissolve.
Right.
So, of course, I kept going, and I got to the point to ask you guys to run. I mean, I brought it up at the end of a couple of sessions, like who wants to run the next campaign, even if it was just a one-off. Luckily, you were like ready to go for Strahd, and I'm so glad, because otherwise, dude, I probably would have moved on to Descent into Avernus, or even worse, freaking Dungeon of the Mad Mage, because I am that kind of person that I don't want to stop when I'm doing something I like and I enjoy,
even if it comes at the cost of
my sanity. Yes. Yeah. No. Yes. Exactly. Because, dude, I've heard so many horror stories of groups that just fall apart, never recover, and then you have the guy, oh, I haven't played for like 2-3 years because whatever reason. And I love this group. I don't want it to dismantle, and they always seem to be ready for the next adventure. And I do not want to disappoint. I want it to keep moving forward. So the fact that you're running Strahd makes me so happy, because it keeps us moving forward, and it gives us time to alternate and take a break while the other one's doing its thing. But by the end of Waterdeep, I was mentally exhausted. I wanted to do so much more, but a bigger part of me just wanted to get it over with and move forward.
Right.
Because towards the end, it wasn't even worth it anymore. It wasn't like that spark of like, yeah, let's go take down Jarlaxle. Like, there wasn't that. By the end of Tomb of Annihilation, you guys were ready to like do side quests.
Right.
And actually, if you think about it, I was already exhausted by the end of Tomb of Annihilation. And then even then I still jump into Waterdeep. Never do that.
I think because you told me that you thought Waterdeep was going to be a more laid back kind of experience.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that didn't really pan out that way.
Yep. Sadly.
Yeah. So that's and to anybody that really wants our thoughts on Waterdeep, listen to the first episode.
Listen to the first episode. We talk plenty about it. What I would say to anybody who especially if you're a new DM like I was or I am still, you know. Even if you feel like you can keep going forward, don't burn yourself out. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt to take a month break.
Right.
I have an obsessive personality with things that I like, and you can ask my girlfriend about it. But like when it comes to a video game I like, I won't stop. You know, any hobbies, anything that I like, it's just I want more. I want it all the time. Well, and it's a thing that I have to work on.
Well, it's also something that, and this is, I'm just talking from personal experience because I don't know how it is for you, but it's also something like that. It's very easy to kind of start like a routine, and how it got for me, and this was like my own like little personal burnout, but how it got for me was that on my days off, I would work on notes and I would try to come up with ideas and whatnot, blah, 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 blah. And it got to the point where it stopped being fun. Like it stopped being fun and started becoming work. And, and like, not to take away your limelight, but that's kind of the lesson I learned. It's like when you stop having fun with it and it starts becoming a job, that's when you kind of need to walk away for a bit.
Yeah. Nope. I completely agree with you. 100%. And, I'm not going to say that it was dreadful to finish Waterdeep. It wasn't. I think it was what really hurt me, what really got me was the thought that I know I could have done so much better, but I didn't because I was just trying to rush to the next shiny thing, and I hate it.
And that's honestly the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Is knowing that you could have done better. Because I even voiced these concerns with you last night after the session. I was like, oh man, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. And the problem with it is there's no rewind button.
Nope.
Like that's it. You got to kind of live with the consequences.
Yep. And to be fair though, there's okay, as an artist, and by artist I mean designer, I'm not like an illustrator or anything like that.
Right.
But like when I work on projects, I work at home, side projects, whatever it is, there's always that passion to keep improving it and keep tweaking it and changing the colors and changing the weight of the stroke and moving this here and realigning it. It's not quite perfect. It's not quite perfect, which is fine. Oops, sorry. I just hit my mic. Which is fine. If it's something that doesn't matter and doesn't affect anybody else, because you can just do that forever. But in the real world, and I'm comparing it to like my job as a designer, clients need their artwork.
Right.
The projects need to be done. So at some point, you have to just look at it and just be happy with what you accomplish and move forward.
And sometimes, and despite the painstaking efforts you make, sometimes good enough has to be good enough.
Yep. Yep. And that's what happened to me. I just kept moving forward, trying to do more and more and more. And I should have just stopped.
Right.
And being just simple as, okay, this is it for now, guys. Let's take a quick 1 month, which I mean, in all reality, 1 month is not that much.
No,
one month break, and then we'll move forward to the next adventure. I should have done that, and I didn't. And that was my burnout.
And the truth of the matter is, as much as we like to rant and rave and obsess over D&D and tabletop RPGs, at the end of the day, they are games.
Yeah.
They're meant to be fun on both sides of the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when it stops becoming that, like, what is there?
Right. Yeah. And, I think I am at a happy place right now because I get to hit things and I get to try to unravel mysteries in Curse of Strahd. I get to play with my players, which I don't think I've ever done that now that I think about it. Oh, no, I did. But it was like a one-off that didn't matter. So I'm really looking forward to actually finish or accomplish like a big feat, in Curse of Strahd with my players and not as a DM.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing that's like that kind of I think the really beautiful thing about that is that when, as a DM, when you get on the other side of the screen, you kind of start to understand how this works. You get what I'm saying? Like how this, how the system really works and stuff like that. And there was a lot of things that I incorporated as a DM from my experience as a player.
Yep.
And vice versa.
And just the first session, it felt like such a fresh breath of air to just be on the other side. And then there were certain things that I was just like, oh shit, that makes sense. Now that I'm thinking as a player, it's like, I wouldn't ask that because of this kind of stuff. And then I can already incorporate that into like my DM thought process.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, taking a break does not mean stop playing. It just means kind of, get on the other side for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah. It also doesn't mean failure. I think for me, it meant failure to stop.
No.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's absolutely, I mean, if no one had wanted to sit in the DM's chair, it would have been completely understandable for you to say like, hey, let's just take like a month, maybe even 2 months after, Dragon Heist, just to kind of more or less detox, like decompress,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So.
Yep. That was my burnout, and don't do it, man. I have actually, he'll probably hear once we're done with Curse of Strahd, he'll probably be one of our guests here. But I have a friend who's currently not running, but he's involved with 3 different campaigns.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And I think it's like running one, and then like they what's it called? For what the little bit I understand is they rotate, like one person's doing some DM in one, the other one's DM in the other, and so forth. Right. Like it's not the same person, but by the same token, like that's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the thing about that is, even if you were like DMing 2 different games, I can kind of see that, in a more minor way of still taking a break, because I made a really bad choice the first time I tried to run Curse of Strahd. About like, Curse of Strahd was literally the only adventure I knew for 5e. Like, I didn't go out of my way to read any other adventures and stuff like that. And so, unfortunately, and I had already told you about this, but unfortunately, by the end of the very first session, I was like, man, I just want to run a normal campaign. Just like kill some goblins and crap like that. And that's because I had actually, in a really weird roundabout way, I had burnt myself out on the material.
Because you read it so many times.
Yeah. So, but I mean, thankfully I got to be, in the last leg of Tomb of Annihilation. I got to be in Dragon Heist. So, I mean, all the quote unquote normal adventures are out of my system. So
there you go. Yeah. No, I'm really, again, I'm going to say it one more time. We're looking forward to Curse of Strahd, man. It's going to be, I think, my first official campaign as a player.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's awesome. But in the world of D&D, any news you want to bring to the table, or anything you want to talk about that happened last month or early this month?
Oh, God. You want to talk about some, like, ultra busted Unearthed Arcana?
What else?
Okay, so we can talk about like the Wild Surge Barbarian. We can talk about the Astral Self Monk. We can talk about the Druid Circles, but let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about this supremely broken Unearthed Arcana class. I'm talking, and I actually learned about this because it was a freaking meme on some of the subreddits first.
Dude, I can't believe I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Until you mentioned.
Well, I mean, it all depends on the circles that you go to.
Okay.
I'm talking about the Twilight Domain cleric class, which, just to give you an idea how stupid this class is, at level 1, it can see infinitely in dark vision. It actually says, as written, has dark vision with no maximum range. So all of a sudden, your cleric, when it goes into the Underdark, becomes like Superman.
He can see into the future.
Yeah, like if your Twilight Domain cleric goes outside at night, it could see the curvature of the earth. I mean, it's just like it's just that's one of the things like when I read it, I'm like,
holy crap! You have dark vision with no maximum range.
Mm-hmm.
What?
And that was one of the things that, like, when I read it, I was like, Wizard's Ghost, what are you doing?
That is dangerous writing right there.
Yeah, it's busted. It's so bad.
I wonder why they did that. I'm just curious, like, what's the thought process behind that? Like, I know it's test play material, so, like, do they expect people to, like, well, then again, how can you abuse infinite sight, I guess? I don't know.
Well, I mean, there is a way.
Wait, as an action, you can magically give the benefit of this to any number of creatures.
Yep.
That you can see within 10 feet of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's broken.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you extend this benefit a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. Oh, well, at least they did that.
Oh, okay.
But it's like
that's great. I can just imagine the characters. Yeah, I'm not very strong. I'm not very wise or intelligent, but I can see into the future.
What do your elf eyes see?
I see everything.
Everything.
I just imagine that little meme from Nickelodeon, the guy that puts the glasses on. I can see. I can fight.
I can see through time.
I can see everything.
I mean, I don't really see offhand right now a way to abuse it, but it just
yeah. The way it's written, it's just funny. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's just like I don't think you understand how vision works, man. Like,
that's great. No, beautiful. So, can I play a Twilight Domain cleric?
No, the hell you can't.
Come on, I want to see Strahd through the window from across the map.
That means okay. That means that if you stood on a mountaintop in Barovia at night, you could see everything.
Can I see what those what the card reading means?
Yeah, like no, you can't see that.
Oh man, that's great.
I mean, Twilight Domain has infinite range and darkness, but can't it see what kids love about Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Oh no! Oh man. Well, I mean, yeah, that's cool and all, but let me bring out that barbarian sorcerer mix that they did.
Yes, the is it what's it called? The Wild Surge?
No, Wild Surge is the actual name of the ability. Hold on, the Primal Path.
Oh yes, I am 100% on board. Okay, so you know me, I love my barbarians.
Yes.
I feel like there's not enough love given to barbarians in 5e. Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, I think the two barbarian classes in the player's handbook are kind of lackluster. I actually feel like the Unearthed Arcana are way better choices.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the book ones, they're fine. They're great for what they are, but it's just like, okay, it's a barbarian.
Yeah, I think the ones in Unearthed Arcana, and especially Xanathar's Guild, I'm like, if you don't play these classes, you're not playing it right.
They're so much fun. Wow, why are you shaming people for not playing those classes?
I'm not shaming. Well, I mean, you should be ashamed. I mean, that's like saying a Beastmaster Ranger is a good class. Anyways.
Wow. I suddenly heard the cries of millions of Rangers out there.
There's literally dozens of us.
Dang it. I should have said that. Oh, man. But yeah, no, you know what's funny about the Primal Path Barbarian? That about a month ago or so, my friend Robert, he was telling me about his multi-class in a barbarian and a sorcerer, essentially.
Oh.
Dude, yeah. Okay, so whenever we have him as a host, he's going to talk about it. I'm pretty sure we can ask him all about it because he's playing it too. So we can. That's something I'm very curious to see how it plays out. And I can't for the life of me right now remember the freaking details, but it sounded pretty bomb, the combination. And it sounded pretty amazing, and his DM allowed him to do it. So I think it's pretty funny that almost a month later, Wizards released the Primal Path, which I think is very similar to the stuff that he's doing, just a little bit more concise, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not an exact 1-to-1, but it's pretty close to, because, oh my god, dude, a wild magic sorcerer / barbarian sounds like a world breaker. like this guy drew from the deck of many things and lived.
Yeah, no, I remember he was so excited about it. He was telling me it sounded pretty bomb. It sounded actually really cool. So I think it's pretty neat that we have the official barbarian Primal Path, which pretty much the main thing is that whenever he rages, you get what essentially is wild magic, and some of them are pretty cool. You can go all the way from like, oh, you do necrotic damage with some energy burst or whatever, to essentially growing plants and flowers around you and making the area around you difficult terrain for everybody else.
Yeah, it's like some of them. I'm looking through them now, and some of them are kind of just flavor, but there's some that's like the very last one. You get an extra 2d8 radiant damage just because.
It's a brilliant light lance that lances from your chest. just rip your shirt off. Just whoa!
Yeah, like you have like a freaking Iron Man like blaster like chest laser thing going on.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. It's I dig it. I personally I'm not a big follower of the Unearthed Arcana, just because I don't want to invite people to bring playtest material onto a campaign because it can break it. It can very much break it.
Right, like these are something that I would be totally okay with on like a one shot, or like even like a small like 2 to 3 session adventure. But for a long term campaign, no sir.
Yeah, very dangerous. It could get really wrong. But I'm a big fan. I need to read all of them now because I've heard of like the main ones. Some of the fix for the barbarian and stuff like that. I'm sorry, not for the barbarian, for the ranger. So from now on, I think every time they come out, I'm just gonna like read them.
Right.
Because I've been missing out.
Well, I mean, I have read a little bit of the new Unearthed Arcanas, and they're definitely fun. I will not allow them, but they're definitely fun.
Wow, you're restricting my imagination, man.
Yeah, well,
I don't like it. I'm offended and triggered. Talking about offended and triggered, but no, last month, freaking Maxwell Jacob or whatever, I don't even know who he was, posted that picture of him and selfie at a gym, and he was like, "I don't play Dungeons and Dragons." Remember that?
Yes.
Oh man, Oh, I just want to bring it up because like I know it's all an act and it's all like to rile up people and like get them to watch or whatever. At least I hope so, because how shallow can you be? Also, he's a professional wrestler, which is like,
okay,
LARPing.
So just to give a bit of context, we're talking about Maxwell Jacob Friedman, who goes by Maxwell T. Friedman or MJF. And there is he's a heel, which if anybody doesn't know, basic wrestling terms, you have a heel and a baby face. Heel's a bad guy, baby face is a good guy. And this was for an upcoming match where he makes a Twitter post saying, I don't play your, like nerdy D&D games, blah, blah, blah. In response, the baby face that he was going up against, who the kayfabe behind him is that he is a nerd, says, oh yeah, well I do, whatnot, and blah, blah, blah. And this apparently generated a lot of like outside tension by a lot of people that did and a lot of people that did not get the joke.
Yeah. Well, the thing, okay, so to clarify a little bit, whoever he was going to fight, he had a picture on his Instagram of him with like a D&D shirt or something like that. And right. So this guy, what do you call it again? The heel?
Yeah, the heel.
The heel. Okay. He said, I don't play D&D. But then our Lord and Savior Joe Manganiello Nilo posted a picture of him on Men's Muscle and Progress magazine saying, I do.
Right.
It was a picture of him like super bulk. Jesus Christ, this guy has like 20 packs.
Yeah, so you got Joe Marinara saying that, and then you also have Matt Mercer sort of giving like a backhanded like compliment to him or something like that.
No. Matt Mercer, I'm looking at it right now. Matt Mercer is an angel. He essentially told him, he was like, you probably had a bad introduction to D&D.
Right.
No worries, I did too. With the right group and a bit of trust, you'll have the time of your life.
Right.
Heck, maybe ask Brent Cutler, which is the dude who he was going to wrestle, to run a game for you after he picks you off the mat.
Now here's the thing. This was all in good fun.
Oh, dude.
These were people that were in on the joke. There were a lot of people that were not in on this.
Bro, which at this level and at this age, I don't understand how people take stuff so seriously on the internet.
Like, do you honestly think in the modern age, and the thing about it is that oh fuck, I forgot the guy's name, MJF. He even doubled down. It's like, no, I'm not kidding. Your game's for babies, blah blah blah, which got more people pissed off, which generated more talk about it. I'm like, guys, you're literally playing into his hand. Yeah. Like, he's making a discussion about it. You know who he is now. Like, I'm not saying he's a household name, but I didn't know who this guy was a month ago.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
So.
Oh man, apparently you got a bunch of death threats. Which, please be a grown up. Why are you giving death threats? That's not nice. Like, that's not going to accomplish anything.
This guy is doing his job, and apparently he's doing a really good job at it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I honestly have to applaud him because this is real role playing.
I'm telling you, man, it's actual LARPing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you want a good idea of how ridiculous wrestling is, watch Wrestling Isn't Wrestling on YouTube by what's the guy's name? Hold on, I'm gonna have to look it up. But it's this amazing breakdown of how like wrestling isn't wrestling anymore, and it's awesome. It's great, and it's
because hey, let's be honest, man. Like, I know that when I was little, and I find out
Max Landis. Sorry, that's the guy I was trying to think of his name.
Yeah, but like when I was young and I found out that like, oh, professional wrestling is not real, I got all disappointed, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, wait a minute, of course it's not real. But that doesn't mean that the stuff they're doing isn't any less amazing.
There's that moment when you're like 8 and you're like, oh yeah, wrestling's real. This is awesome. And then you turn like 12 or 13 And you're like, wrestling's fake. This is stupid.
Yeah.
And then you come back around at like 22 and you're like, this is awesome again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, dude, it's crazy.
Oh no, this was great. He did his job. He deserves a raise.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he did it. They got it. I mean, oh man, yeah. But no, I don't remember when that came out, dude. The first thing I saw was the death threat thing. And I'm like, oh come on, like people like don't do this. You're giving like our community, the D&D community is for the most part very welcoming, very nice. So when I saw a news post about how toxic and intense the D&D community was, I was actually very surprised. I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? Which is what made me jump into the article. Right. And then all I had to do was go into his Twitter account and just like read the comments. And I had the best morning at work ever. It was it was such a great. It was such a great. It was so good. People need to like relax. Like,
because I grew up wrestling. I didn't.
Whoa, you're a wrestler? You didn't tell me?
No. No. I grew up watching wrestling. Like, every week we watch like Monday Night Raw and whatnot. And so. And to this, I was delighted to see this because I'm like, oh my God, this is wrestling taken to a whole new level. I didn't realize the potential of social media until I saw this. And I'm like, of course it is. This is awesome.
I mean, the dude knew exactly what to do. It was great. It was great.
It was awesome.
Oh man. What else? I think that's all we have for this episode. Unless you have anything else.
We definitely need to do a bit more research into Eberron.
Yes. For sure.
Because I barely skimmed the surface on what was revealed to be an Eberron. 16 new races and sub-races.
Ooh.
16.
Now, let me ask you this. Just because this is my first trip into the world of D&D and stuff like that. Eberron is a new setting. So those classes can be played in either setting, right?
Eberron is not a new setting, actually.
I'm sorry. It's a different setting. I didn't mean that.
Okay. Well, sorry. Let me clarify. It's a new setting for 5e.
Right.
This is actually, I want to say, based on either it. I want to say it's a 3rd edition, not 3.5. I want to say it's a 3rd edition. But it's based on a setting where it's essentially, steampunk instead of fantasy.
Mm.
So there's like railroads and like what's the word I'm looking for?
There's an artificer, right? Like all kinds of
the artificer class for the new book, for the new Eberron book. It's going to be officially published as a class. It's going to be officially recognized as a class, instead of just being like Unearthed Arcana. But it has like the Zeppelins and the dirigibles and stuff like that. So expect a lot of like clockwork, stuff and whatnot. I want to do a deeper dive into it. Because like I said, I skimmed like just the top of the iceberg on it.
It's coming out this month, right? Or next month?
Let me see. Actually, I want to say it's coming out fairly soon.
November 19th.
Yep. Rising from the Last War. That's the name of the book.
That's up, yeah. Nice.
So,
no, I'm super excited. I'm down for new stuff always. Another book I'm looking forward to actually, which is the re-release of Tyranny of Dragons.
Yes, the remastered, quote unquote.
Yeah, I don't know if it's official, but I think they are reworking a lot of the stuff that wasn't too hot about the first 2 books. First of all, the cover is gorgeous.
Yes.
It is 2 books in one, essentially. So yeah, it's like a remaster, and I'm super excited for it. I don't know if I'm going to run it. I know I want the book for sure. But I don't know if I'm going to run it yet because, I still have Avernus queued up.
Yes. So Tyranny of Dragons, which features the combined adventures of Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. And it features concept art, whatnot. And it says it comes with a reworked opening chapter. So I don't know how much of this was redone, but it is actually coming out very soon. It's coming out October 22nd.
Nice.
So.
Yes, I'm super, which is the day before my birthday, just saying.
So, yeah. No, this is very. I don't think I don't know if I've ever seen a Dungeons and Dragons product where they go back to something older like that and just kind of. And again, I don't know how much of this is going to be new material and how much of this is just going to be like just them essentially making like a greatest hits collection.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, just even going through the trouble of combining the two adventures, that's still awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Also, oh man, I just love the special edition covers. It's so beautiful.
Oh yeah, no, that artwork is amazing.
Yeah, definitely gonna get that. Yeah. If anybody buys it because they heard us say it, make sure you send a message to Wizards of the Coast and tell them about a talk of opportunity. So we can get affiliate links, hashtag make that money.
I heard somebody on the Facebook page said that we were the best DMs they've ever seen.
I've definitely heard that too.
I don't know what they're talking about, but whatever.
They really have very little experience with DMs.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Man, I can't wait to let them down.
Me too.
Me too, man. Me too.
Oh man. But yeah, do you have anything else, Andrew, you want to bring to the table?
You mean like for this discussion?
Yeah, for the discussion.
We can briefly touch upon the fact that there is now a version of D&D for the deaf.
Yes, I saw that on the new Dragon Plus.
Yeah, they've actually made a what's it? There is an American Sign Language advocate named Misty Vander.
Yeah.
Who is actually if I'm gathering this correctly, is running games for people in Dungeons and Dragons using American Sign Language.
Which holy crap, I can barely English. Can you imagine running a D&D campaign in American Sign Language?
Yeah, and she has a Twitter and everything. It's called ASL for RPG.
Yeah, make sure you follow it. I'm definitely following on my Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, definitely check it out. This is something. This is honestly amazing. The fact that there is like just completely breaking down all the barriers for this. I don't see any reason why no one shouldn't be able to partake in this. So
I agree.
I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons like at all. So the fact that someone's actually going out of their way to make it more accessible to, those that would generally be seen as inaccessible, I think that's a very admirable thing.
I have to agree with you 100%. It didn't even occur to me, man, like how lucky we are that we can just, run it without any problems. Like, that's amazing. Somebody's actually taken the effort to like make this happen. So props to them. Follow them on their Instagram and their Twitter.
Yeah. And that's something that I do want to, I want to, dive a little bit further into, kind of learn about some things, and maybe like in the next episode talk about it a bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
Because all these things that we're talking about right now, like I said, just scraping the tip of the iceberg on. But these are some seriously cool things that are going on.
Because our community is amazing.
I'm so proud of this community.
Until the day they turn against us.
Nah, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, because we're never gonna be that big. Good job, team. Bye. Oh man. So thank you for joining us this episode 2 of a Talk of Opportunity. Make sure to follow us on iTunes, Spotify, or our YouTube our YouTube channel to keep up to date. Also, we don't have a set schedule yet, but probably twice a month we're going to be streaming our games on Twitch at A Talk of Opportunity. And come join us, say hi. We don't have any prizes or anything cool, but you can hear our voices again.
Yes, you can hear our beautiful sonorous voices.
Yes.
Incredible.
Also, you get to meet the rest of the team, the rest of the party as well, which are all great people. And I'm so happy that they're in my group. And thank you for joining us. Keep moving forward. Keep fighting. Keep DMing. Don't burn yourself out. And keep adventuring.
Keep moving forward, but at a reasonable pace.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.